We're going to move on to our 10:45 time limit, and this is a presentation on our ERAF Encampment Resolution Fund by Director of Health and Human Services and Mission Possible. Morning, Renell.
Wait for the presentation to show up. Go back. Sure. All right. So good morning, Board. With the support of the Homeless Ad Hoc Committee, we are here to provide an overview of the Encampment Resolution Funding Grant and discuss the next steps. Addressing homelessness is a community-wide issue, and conversations have been taking place for many years on how best to do this in Del Norte County. Although the IRF grant is awesome, it's a great opportunity, but it's unrealistic to think that this project will solve homelessness for our community. However, the overwhelming support that we've received and the collaboration for the project demonstrate that it's a step in the right direction. As I mentioned, conversations about addressing homelessness started a few years ago. The Homeless Ad Hoc Committee was formed in December of 2022 to address the current needs of the community. The group consists of stakeholders from many organizations, such as 2 Board of Supervisor members, representatives from various county departments, city representatives, True North Organizing Group, Del Norte Mission Possible, faith-based organizations, and the Healthcare District, among others. Almost exactly 1 year ago today, DHHS, the grant writer, and Del Norte Mission Possible gave a presentation to the board outlining the IRF program with a description of the project and site plans to place a micro-village on the county-owned Williams Drive location. DHHS applied as the grantee, and as the only nonprofit in the county, Del Norte Mission Possible was identified as a subrecipient to support the operations of the project. Then in June of 2023, the Homeless Ad Hoc Committee brought a presentation to the board about potentially adding tiny homes to the Williams Drive site to address the permanent housing needs that were lacking in the first ERF grant submission. During this presentation, we discussed moving the micro-village to the area where the surplus cars were parked and placing the tiny homes in the original proposed area. With some application modifications, in September of 2023, DHHS was successfully awarded the IRF grant round 3. And then in November of 2023, we received the ERF funds, and in December of 2023, DHHS brought a budget transfer to the board for approval so that we could start the project and spend the funds. Although the program allows for some modifications to the plan, there are 2 very hard state deadlines that I want to emphasize in this presentation. The first one is that we need to expend 50% of the funds and obligate 100% of the funds by June 30th of 2025. And secondly, we need to expend 100% of the funds by June 30th, 2026. So the ERF program is to provide funding to support proposals that resolve the experience of unsheltered homelessness for people residing in encampments. The Del Norte County project consists of developing a continuum of housing services and support, including an off-site navigation center, a campus model including a 60-bed congregate emergency shelter, a 50-unit micro-village or pallet homes, kitchen and bathroom facilities, a community area, space for storage for residents' belongings, laundry facilities, a garden, and a pet area. In addition, a large portion of the grant provides funding for on-site staff and operational support for the duration of the project, which goes through March 31st of 2027, as well as training and technical assistance from the state and the state contracted TA provider home base. So next I want to talk about the micro-village piece. Based on data provided by Pallet Company, communities are safer when people are housed. There are 3 reasons interim shelter creates a safer environment. When unhoused people are sheltered, They are less likely to be victims of violence and hate crimes. 2, they're meeting basic human needs, reduces petty crimes such as theft, usually performed as a means of survival. They're 3, providing structured community and consistent services, which minimizes the root causes of conflict. Statistics show that crime rates drop near pallet shelter villages. In the city of Vancouver, Washington, within a year, police visits within 500 feet of the village dropped by almost 30%. In LA County, areas within a quarter mile of 10 pallet villages saw an average of nearly 25 decrease in crime. In Denver, Colorado, in the 6 safe outdoor space neighborhoods that hosted temporary homes for unhoused people, crime went down by about 3%. In addition, pallet shelters are cost-effective, rapid to deploy and install, and have the capacity to serve people displaced by chronic homelessness. Other examples of pallet villages within California include Chico, where 225 residents engaged in case management, in Santa Clara County, where 67% of people found permanent housing, in Redding, where all residents are employed and on the path to permanent housing, and in Redondo Beach, where 62% of residents were permanently housed. So let's talk about the budget. The budget consists of 5 main areas. We have startup site development, personnel costs, operating costs, client support, and administration, which gets us to our $10,823,724. The startup and site development cost entails preparation of site and capital purchases such as the pallet homes, modular kitchen, bathroom, and laundry facilities, permitting costs, and a project manager contract. Personnel expenses include staff to operate the navigation center, emergency shelter, micro-village, and to perform outreach services for the duration of the project. Operating costs encompass costs like office supplies, employee costs, technical assistance, training, insurance, utilities, and maintenance. Client support covers client transportation, food services, personal expenses such as hygiene and personal needs, housing support, incentives to clients and landlords, and rental subsidies. And then administration is the cost for staff and office supplies and needs to support the administration and reporting of the IRF program. So, although we haven't made any large purchases yet, we have been doing a lot of the behind-the-scenes work. We've gathered quotes for pallet shelters, kitchen and bathroom units. Some purchases will require an RFP process, and some we are looking at using existing state contracts or cooperative purchasing agreements. We've solicited project manager proposals from the existing on-call list developed by county administration. We've drafted subrecipient agreements and plan to bring them back to the board for approval soon. We've worked with administration and building and maintenance to remove all but one of the surplus vehicles from the Williams Drive site. We've developed budgets for broad line items, such as the site development line, estimating costs for pallet homes, kitchen, bathroom, site work, and construction management. We've partnered with Del Norte Mission Possible and True North to complete outreach to encampment individuals and impacted entities such as the Ag Department, Probation, Sheriff's Department, City of Crescent City, CCPD, Crescent City Fire and Rescue, and local businesses. We've conducted multiple Williams Drive site tours to share the plan with interested individuals. We've participated in many ad hoc committee meetings and subcommittee meetings to discuss the project. We've received technical assistance from the state and Home Base, Arcata House, and Rogue Retreat to assist with report planning and development. And Del Norte Mission Possible coordinated a site visit to a similar model, Rogue Retreat in Oregon. So now Del Norte Mission Possible is going to come up and talk about their role in the project and our emergency shelter needs.
Good morning. My name is Charlene Mazie. I'm the Executive Director for Del Norte Mission Possible, among other hats in the community. And this is Daphne Cortez-Lambert. She is the Director of Homeless Services and founder of Del Norte Mission Possible. So we're going to kind of tag team this presentation. We work as a really good team. We complement each other pretty well. So I'm going to start out kind of about Mission Possible. It's a fairly new organization. It was founded in 2019 with the mission of helping the unhoused with relationship-based services that encourage dignity, purpose, self-esteem, and a spirit of giving back to the community. And I think it's really, the really important pieces of that are relationship-based services. It's establishing those individual relationships with people who are experiencing homelessness and listening to them, meeting them where they are, and understanding their needs. And it's also dignity, purpose, self-esteem, and a spirit of giving back. This isn't a handout. It's how you build people up and teach them how to give back to the community and become productive members of that community. As was mentioned, they are the only organization focused solely on services that address what is a growing crisis of homelessness in Del Norte County. I've lived here for a long time, and it is definitely getting worse. And I don't think it's because there are a bunch of people deciding, oh, I just want to go live out in the woods these days. I think the economic circumstances are such that it's harder to maintain housing than it used to be. So this organization focuses solely on that, and that's their mission. So in April 2021, how I got involved is we partnered with the Del Norte Senior Center, Community Action Partnership of Del Norte, for administrative and fiscal support. So this would be the administrative support. I have a fiscal team also that does their books and keeps the financial stuff in order. Together we provide a solid foundation. The Senior Center's been around since 1976. I've been its executive director now for 13 years. I just did the math, which went by really fast. And we have a very solid foundation for future growth and sustainability. That partnership has allowed Mission Possible to get a couple of fairly substantial state grants over the COVID period and successfully administer them and close them out and provide a lot of services to the community. So now I'm going to let Daphne talk about our innovation.
So part of what Mission Possible does is we love to partner with our community. We love to develop services that have the people that we serve have an open voice to be part of that solution so that we are truly working together as a community. We have a proven track record of innovative ideas. We started in 2020 with a women's transitional home, and that's in partnership with First Baptist Church. Since then, we've had 48 women. Most of those have been chronically homeless. We've had women as young as 18 and as old as 68. And we have an 85% recovery rate for those women, which is pretty incredible. And part of that success is because we use being an individualized plan that is client-centered and community enhancement model. And what that means is we looked at, I love to not reinvent the wheel. So I looked at Rogue Retreat, I looked at many other shelters, and I loved the model in Rogue Retreat because it was client-centered and because it was an asset to the community. And so I took that model and the way that they give people a hand up and applied it in a very small atmosphere in the women's transitional home. And that is really, that and the women that we serve is the reason for that tremendous success. What I found was those women are uniquely qualified to be peer mentors and to give back to the community. Many of them are going to college and trying to pursue education in social work. We also heard from the community that there was a lot of trash, that the homeless had trash everywhere. So I spoke with one of our ambassadors. That's what we call people from every encampment. We have someone who's a spokesperson, and talk to them about this problem. And with partnership with Solid Waste Management, we began a garbage cleanup. And so what that looks like is actually that first year, I went into the camps, the people had loaded up their garbage bags, and we put them in, and solid waste waived the fees. So at first, this was like 4 bags of garbage, and you get some kind of incentive. And then something incredible happened. The people started just loving it and wanting to just clean up, not just their camps. They wanted to go other places in our community and make a difference. And so this last year, we removed 118 tons of trash from the camps, which is pretty tremendous. Our street outreach served 865 individuals in 2022 and 725 in 2023. And part of that street outreach, we partner with St. Vincent de Paul, the Humboldt Area Foundation, Pacific Pantry. We always want to recognize our partners. But what that is really building relationships so people can trust us. This isn't about a hand up or a hand out, it's about a hand up, making connections with individuals so that we can connect them to services. Now, I believe that the decrease in the number is because we've helped people to where they don't need those services any longer. We also provide housing navigation, and that is in partnership with the county and the continuum of care. We've had a tremendous partnership with the county, and 74 people were permanently housed and many more in supportive housing. Another pilot project that we started was we looked at people who were being released from the hospital and they had no place to go, and that was causing them to have to continue to return back and putting a heavy burden on the hospitals. And so we started a pilot project through FEMA funds for recuperative care for individuals. And that was so successful that when that funding we ran out of it, then we connected with Partnership, and Partnership has a new program through CalAIM that is enhanced care management and community supports that provides those same things and also links people to advocacy to be able to make it to their doctor's appointments and just somebody to help them along. What was wonderful about this is we were already doing that in the community. So when they came up with this program, we were like, all right, we can get paid for what we're already doing. That's great. And so these are just a beginning of programs that we have had the honor of being able to help this community with.
And I think one of the main points is all of those pilot programs that were started with let's do this idea, we've been able to sustain. And I know sustainability is a big question about these larger services, and I think that we have a proven track record of being able to do that. So let's talk about our vision for the future. There's a couple of slides here, but basically what we're trying to do is the community needs space for those who are experiencing homelessness to achieve stability and find a path to permanent housing, dignity, and re-engagement. What we've been proposing through this IRF grant and what we're asking for today is the best way to do that. This is a picture of a sprung building. That is what we're looking for doing the congregate shelter. This particular one is in Kern County. There are several other counties and cities that have done sprung buildings for their shelters, and they work really well. Mission Possible tried to do this shelter thing on its own for probably 2 or 3 years. We looked at 38 different properties in the community, including some that were not even for sale. We have a very strong person on our board who happens to be a realtor who was not afraid to call people up and say, hey, is your property for sale? So we looked and looked. We've explored 3 of them seriously. One of them we were looking at a lease, couldn't come to financial agreement. 2 of them we actually put offers in and they fell through either because the property was not suitable for the use that we wanted to put on it. It was on well and septic and we couldn't get a big enough septic on the property, or because the community felt that it wasn't feasible, and that was the last attempt at the property on 101. So we actually came back and said, look, we can't do this on our own. We came back to the ad hoc committee, the subcommittee, and said we need help trying to figure out where to put the congregate shelter. And so the proposal to co-locate it on the already approved site where we were going to put the pallet homes is what came out of those conversations with the subcommittee and the ad hoc committee and all of our partners. As Renelle said, we've brought in the city, the county, police, sheriff, probation. We've talked to behavioral health, drug and alcohol. We've taken community feedback, and this seems to be the best path forward. The nice thing about Williams Drive is it utilizes property that's already owned by the county. We wouldn't be taking any private property off the tax rolls, which is a concern. It is not visible. I actually worked in that vicinity for several years and really never knew what was on that other side of mental health building. And it is going to be, that property will be improved, managed, used for good purposes, so it will actually have improvement over what it is now. So let's see, okay, so not the stereotype. Go ahead and take that.
All right.
So I know a lot of people have ideas of what a shelter is. This is not it.
So, first of all, what this shelter model is all individuals are screened, that there's not a drop-in policy here. We're going to be using the relationship we already have with individuals in the encampments, and we are going to have peer support people come in, talk to them, bring them over to the navigation center that is on Elk Valley that we've already successfully run with no problem at our navigation center since last year in May. And they'll do an application process, and we will talk to them about what they really want, because not all people are going to want this shelter. Some people, maybe we can talk them into going and moving in with family. There'll be different options because it is very client-centered. There will be no drop-in, and residents are screened off-site, and when there is a bed that is open for them, we will call them, and we will bring them into the shelter. They are not coming in on their own. There is no visitors that are going on those facilities. It's going to be fenced. There's no lining up. There's no loitering, a strict no loitering policy. There is the pre-screening method. I have a quote here from the Ashland Police Department that the pre-screening method reduced police calls by 92%, opposed to when they ran a shelter that was not screened. So we will have that secured fencing. It's going to be a nice white vinyl fencing for those of you who are able to go over to the Rogue Retreat and see what they had. And so that fencing is really important. We're also going to have security cameras that are going to be monitored, and we are going to have staff, and we've been talking with the fairgrounds and also with CAL FIRE, and just trying to listen, because listening to our community is very important to us. And so we are discussing hiring some off-site security to be able to the people of Rogue Retreat, the founders, think possibly we don't need that, but why not try it? We're going to go ahead and try it because we're listening to the community. We are also going to be staffed. And what this means is this is not a volunteer staff. This is a trained staff who are trauma-informed, and everyone will also be trained in de-escalation and how to work with this particular clientele. Now, the secret sauce to this is that this is more than just a bed. This is about relationship-based case management. It's about goal setting, behavioral rules, accountability, opportunity, but more than that, it's about giving people opportunity to attain their dreams. The people that we're targeting right now, they're scared and they work in a trauma mold. Many people think that they do have mental health disabilities, and some of them do. But trauma also appears like mental health. When someone is so scared to leave their camp because something is going to happen to them, they don't react like they can't think of their future. Their brains become different and wired differently. This gives them an opportunity to be safe and to make the choices for their life to move forward. Now, another stereotype is that, these people that we're going to serve aren't from our community. According to the last pit count, 70% of those who were surveyed have been in our community for more than 5 years. Another stereotype is that, this is going to cause garbage. One of the things that our model is going to do is we're working on being an asset to the community. We are going to listen to our partners. We're having one person who they can call if anything is happening around those areas 24/7. Also, we're going to do neighborhood cleanups. So in actuality, this neighborhood's going to look better than it does right now, because we will have individuals who are volunteers who will have their vests on out cleaning up the neighboring areas. This is also going to be cost effective because we're going to be able to provide whole person care. We already work on this with Cal-AIM in partnership. But what we're finding is when you have people in encampments, they can't make appointments. And so there's a lot of medical appointments. You can make those appointments with people, but if they can't make those appointments, it's costly. And our medical facilities can't do that right now. So we will be able to have them in a place where we can get them to their medical appointments and stop that heavy burden of medical costs that's on our community. Oh, I also had, on security, I had a quote from Lieutenant Jeff Kilpatrick from the Community Engagement Division of Medford Police Department. And he says, one of the concerns that I often hear from communities is that of skepticism, that when Rogue Retreat approaches them with a proposal to open a facility in their community, there's a fear that crime will rise, the general neighborhood appearance will diminish, and that the undesirables will impact general livability in that area. As a city that embraced 7 or more Rogue Retreat facilities within our city limit, I can assure you that that is not the case. As a nearly 20-year law enforcement professional, I have zero concern with the management, placement, and safety surroundings of these programs. In fact, I often tell community groups that the police calls for service at these facilities are usually less than in most of our affluent neighborhoods.
So this is kind of along the vision for the future. This is our conceptual campus map. You'll notice there's a big building missing from that map. Part of what we want to do with the IRF funding and part of site preparation is to help the county and demolish that mental health building. That once that building is demolished, the pallet homes can go in that area, where that little white rectangle at the bottom is where we're asking that we be able to place the congregate shelter. So it becomes a campus model. This has a lot of advantages. One is flexibility of staffing. Instead of having to staff 2 completely separate sites, we can share staff. It makes it easier to have people who can respond to anything that's going on in either facility. It also provides people who are just coming into the shelter model with a vision for where you can go and say, hey, if you follow your program and meet your goals, you too can have one of these private cabins. And then it fosters that vision of success, and as opposed to the cycle of spiraling down. The red areas are that fence that we talked about. This is just a rough thing. Once we get a project manager, we'll be sitting down and talking more about detail placement. But this is just to give an idea of what we're thinking of. And so that red is the fencing, and then that whole area in there is where Daphne was talking about, that we'll have people going out with the landowner's permission and doing cleanup and doing not necessarily security patrols, but at least just making it uninviting for anyone else to set up shop around that facility. So again, we want to talk a little bit about sustainability. We have a track record of completing what we start and keeping it going. But we also have already been thinking about that. The co-location with the already approved village is a sustainability for the shelter. Again, because of staffing, because of, we only need one kitchen facility perhaps. We can share some common area, those kind of economies we can get if they're co-located. We do have the ERF funding through, it has to be expended through June of 2026. So we have that for sure for then. We also have the ongoing contracts with partnership that Daphne mentioned, which is Medi-Cal, for those who don't know what partnership is. So those will provide for post-recuperative care beds or the case navigation. All of those things are fundable under that program. We are planning on approaching the hospital with contracts for beds for that recuperative care for those who don't fall under partnership. We're currently putting folks up right now in motels, which is challenging for a number of reasons, including the fact that we're occupying motel rooms that really are for folks who are coming to our community to enjoy themselves. So we'll have a place for folks to go that is specifically for those recuperative care services. Participant fees, that's one of the models that Rogue Retreat uses, is it's not rent, it's a participant fee for those who have income to give a little back to what they're getting. So far, the state is still identifying homelessness as a statewide problem. And I think as long as it is a problem in LA and San Francisco and Sacramento, it will continue to be a priority for the legislature to fund the ongoing funding that's coming from the state to the continuums of care and to the county. Private foundation grants and donors. We have a very committed donor base. We have one donor who has committed to funding our outreach and our housing efforts to the tune of $25,000 a year. How much did he? $30,000 a year. And we also have great relationships with Humboldt Area Foundation and several other funders in the community. And then social enterprises is another thing that Rogue Retreat has started. So we would like to do job training for example, the kitchen can be for culinary training for folks, and then we could do some catering as a social enterprise, lawn care, those kind of things. So there are options that we can do to generate funding for that. So we are thinking about sustainability. It's always going to be a challenge, but it's not like we're just going to get to June of 2026 and go, oh, we're done. So that is kind of the, oh, you have more about the campus.
I do.
You do. Talk about your stuff.
So, in a book that we read from the founders of Rogue Retreat, when asked, what would you do differently, they said that they would have a centralized location because of sustainability, because of the power that comes from positive peer influence. This also is going to, it supports our tiered approach. And the services, again, are centralized. And this also helps us to keep the area secure. So we have all of our, everything is together. And so we're not spread out trying to keep one area secure and another area over town secure. This is it. So I just wanted to add that.
So that is what we have for our presentation. So any of us can answer whatever questions you have.
Yes, so do you have questions for us? Just a reminder, our ultimate goal is to create a continuum of housing services for the unhoused population of Del Norte County. And then we bring the specific ask of placing the shelter on the Williams Drive site with the pallet homes.
Any questions from the board?
Real quick. I counted, that would be 30 of the pallet homes initially. Do we expect to expand that at all?
That's just a conceptual map.
Oh, okay, so it wasn't just,
Yeah, our grant identifies 50
50,
pallet homes.
okay.
Yeah, 3 of those are ADA accessible.
okay.
Yeah.
And this, in the Sprung building, there was 60 beds? Is that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then the question I have that with the funding from the IRF grant, we're able to demolish the mental health building.
Yes.
We're going to be displacing search and rescue. Is there funding in there to help relocate search and rescue to a different location?
No. We've been in conversations with the sheriff from the beginning when we knew that we were, well, even prior to being awarded the funds, when we were completing the application. So we've discussed different options. I have asked the state specifically if relocation costs are an allowable expense, and they said no. However, we are able to cover the cost of the demolition, which I think we're estimating $300,000-ish probably. We're not sure on what that is.
Okay.
But the grant should be able to cover the entire cost of that in lieu of the general fund paying for that.
Okay, so then perhaps we can draw on the general fund for relocation.
Yes.
And then my final question is, on the fencing around, it looks like it's butting up right to where the ag department is. They won't be interfering with the ag department's business, is that correct? Because that fence will be there, it'll be very separate, so it's not going to interfere with ag, because they recently relocated.
Correct. Yeah,
Okay.
and again, that's just a conceptual map. You know, we're continuing.
It's not to scale,
Not
right?
to scale, not exactly where it is, where the utilities are exactly. You know, we'll get that project manager on board. We'll continue discussions. You know, I was talking to Justin recently about his concerns and any impacts. So we'll definitely take that into consideration when we finalize where the fence goes to make sure that the ag department is getting their needs met.
Great, thank you for that.
Was there not discussions of paying rent to the sheriff for the triple wide that's there and that filtering through?
There were some initial discussions about that. We've been, a group of us have been researching actually who owns that building. So I don't know, do you want me to speak to that, Neil, or do you have anything you want to? It's still undetermined, and so, you know, to determine who pays rent to who is still not certain. However, this grant would provide the funding to renovate it and, you know, make it a more useful building in the future for the county.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Joe?
turn?
Yeah, your
Okay,
turn.
so appreciate the presentation. It clarified a lot of things. I would highly request and recommend that this was done before the budget transfer would have been ideal. I think there was so much uprise and concern because people's minds went wild, including my own. I mean, we're just throwing away $10.8 million. We have no idea where it's going. So in future, whatever the case may be, I would love to see this beforehand. That would be great. Now seeing the presentation plus taking the visit, I have a completely different idea of what your vision is. And I think a lot of people would have saw it differently if they saw that as well. So the question about staff, is staff going to be provided with like benefits and retirement and all that, or how does that work? Because I noticed you have like $3 million towards staffing over, you know, a year and a half or 2 year period. And at the end of 2026, I think you addressed some of looking forward to finances, but that's a big number. And to keep that up, how do you plan to, I mean, are those benefits included? And I guess you kind of addressed your hopes for financing in the future, but.
Yeah, so right now, the staffing includes salaries that are, there are none that are less than $20 an hour, because since McDonald's pays $20 an hour, that's our new minimum wage now. So they are, most of them are full-time or, you know, like shared positions where 2 part-time people, so we budgeted at full-time. They include paid holidays, paid vacation, retirement benefits. The one thing that I haven't been able to crack the nut of providing health insurance. It's just so expensive for a small organization to try to provide that I have to make the choice between, do I provide health insurance or do I hire 2 more people? And so far, we just haven't been able to do the health insurance part. That has been the model that the senior center has been sustainable with. I want to make sure that we get good people and are able to keep them. So I believe in paying as much of a living wage as we can. That's just part of the sustainability question that we have to answer. And again, we've also kind of staffed rich in the budget, because you always budget for more and then see what you really need. So as we go along, we'll see, how much of that staff do we need, how much of that staff. But a lot of the staffing is going to be ongoing, supported by the CalAIM partnership. Case management it's billable to Medi-Cal. So we can bill those, as long as they discover that providing upfront services is cheaper than providing emergency care, then they'll continue to be able to fund community-based organizations to provide those preventive services.
And do you have an estimate on just wages? Or do you not have that broken down, like an annual wage?
I do,
cost?
but not off the top of my
Gotcha.
head.
No problem.
Yeah, I can get that to you.
No problem. And then the pallet shelters, the tour we took, I didn't like them, which doesn't mean anything. I mean, other than the fact that I don't like them, but they seemed very cold and very blank and just not welcoming. I guess it'd be better than living in tents by far. But I know we took another tour of another facility there that had more of a built design to it. So it says pallet homes and the design says pallet structures and everything. Is that the model you're moving forward with, or is it still discussing?
So part of the reason that, because of our timeline, the pallet homes are one of the 3 that we do not, that the state has identified that you can use them without getting a bid. And also they come very quickly, so they meet our timeline. I heard what people were saying as far as those foldums, that they really liked them. So I'm gonna shoot that to our ad hoc, but that is where we chose the pallets. Now, in hearing what you're saying about them being cold, we want people to be sheltered and safe, but we do not want them to be so comfortable that this is their place. We want them motivated to move on so that they can have their own home. So that's part of that. These are also very durable, the pallets, and easily cleaned, which is very nice. And you can have storage inside of these facilities, like underneath the beds, where the foldums really didn't have that.
Okay. And then moving on to the people that are acquired in the shelters, are sex offenders eliminated from that, giving the location that it's going to be by the child center or the youth center? Is that a screening process that's done and eliminated from that area?
Yeah, that is part of the screening process.
Okay. And then foot traffic. I know when we went on our tour, they like to kick everybody out for the day.
Right.
And so is that going to be, everyone, or is there bus services provided, or is it just walk out and go somewhere?
Well, everyone will have a case plan, and part of that intake procedure is to let people know that when we're going to be very respectful of our neighbors because you love what we're doing here and being safe, let's help you be a part of staying safe. That's a model that has worked very well. That's how we've kept the women's transitional home safe, the navigation center safe, is just giving people ownership over those things. Now, when you say foot traffic, one of the things that's very good about this site is that it's back more. We listened to what Lonnie had to say about, people going down that road and, being close to juvenile hall. So this site is ideal for that. And the individuals that are going to be they're going to be going to work. They're not going to have shopping carts. They're not going to have backpacks. They're going to look like us. They're going to be clean.
And I'll definitely give you, after taking that tour, these places that I visited, you couldn't even tell. It was very clean. It was very, very different than what your mind goes to when you
Right.
picture homeless shelters. So I'll give you a lot of credit on that.
I'm glad you went.
Yeah, me too. And then my final question.
Can I just add really quick?
Absolutely.
One of the things too is we're not just going to have necessarily a mass exodus of people going out. It's going to depend on what their case plan is as to where they go and when. So somebody might have an appointment at 10 o'clock, so they're going to, be there until 10 o'clock, and then they'll go to their appointment. So, but that is one thing we'll have to take a look at as far as, it'd be great if we could talk to RCT about, put a bus stop right there. That would be ultimately a really good thing. So, as we're developing this, we'll see where the things are. We don't have all of this. We may sound like we know what we're doing, but we don't have it all down yet. There's going to be a lot of learning along the way, and we'll be listening to people and making adjustments as we go.
And then my final question, since item number 2 on here is discussing about potentially the location and giving approval, the last time you guys were here, you asked me, I guess, was if I could find a property anywhere, let you know. And I had found one, and I sent that, I believe, and they were in contact, but never heard back. And it was a warehouse on Elk Valley. It's completely empty, abandoned, but they had said they never
Two
received.
words, Coastal Commission.
it's
Anything
in
in the
the-
coastal zone the permitting process will not fit into this timeline.
Even though there's no building being built?
Well, it's still, it's not building the building, but it would require a substantial renovation, and the Coastal Commission would still have things to say about that.
It's not zoned for a shelter? So
Yeah, it's not
We'd have to
zoned.
ask for a
Even if it's
special
zoned
permit?
commercial?
Yeah, it's not zoned for a shelter, so that would
Yeah,
not fit in
I think we
that
did,
timeline.
somebody did explore that.
Okay.
And that was the problem.
Okay, that's all I have for now.
Okay.
Thank you. Like I said, almost got you. Thank you for their presentation. Again, what I've made clear to a lot of people that are concerned about this is again, just like you said, this is just a process by which we try to assist and help those that are out there that desire that help. And that when they do come into the shelter, the assessment is done. And then there's a contractual agreement that they must engage in, that they are willing to go into programming in order to stay in these facilities. It's not a matter of they just get a bed. There is a requirement that they engage in programming up to address their issues that have been identified by the intake. And so it's not just come and get a bed. You have to be a participant in your own resolution of your issues. And so it's a different model than what so many other attempts at housing. Housing First was a failure and has been a drastic failure throughout the state of California, because there's no requirement to try to address the issues that surround that individual that have led them to this position of being in this state. And so for that, I'm thankful. I know one of our concerns is so that we as a county can engage in trying to do the things outside of the shelter. And I am very, you've looked, putting that shelter in that central location along with the other facilities, I think is good. But again, we need to have, as a part and party to this solution, we have to have that, again, like we saw at Rogue Retreat, that low threshold, not only into the shelter, but also having an availability of tents set up in camping. So that has to be an integral component of what we are engaging and trying to bring individuals in, because that's, again, that's most of how they feel comfortable at this point in time, because that's how they live in much of our area, in our rural areas. They don't have any sustained built shelters, although some have constructed their own or dragged them in. But having those tents available, and all the tents that we saw at the Rogue Retreat were those that are provided by the service, by the shelter services there. So they're not dragging in their own tents. The things that they're being provided to camp there, to be housed there, are ones that are provided by, much like we already do, provide those kinds of services already to those that need those homeless cells. At that point, is there any other comments or public comment to this at this time?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just have a couple of questions. As we know, in the state of California, I believe the Housing First model has been around for probably a dozen years or more. I think that's the first time I started hearing about it was probably in 2012 or so. And since that time, as that model has taken on a world of its own, the homeless population in the state of California has actually exploded. And I know that Chair Wilson has said that there are a lot of different forms of housing first, but it doesn't appear to matter what form it takes. The Housing First model doesn't seem to be addressing the issue. Here in this county, we've already had an instance where we provided, I don't know whether you want to call it temporary or transition housing. I don't know how you want to split the hairs, but it has failed to halt the increase of homelessness here in the county. In fact, it nearly doubled after the original site was formed on 101 and with the legacy. So I'm wondering how, I mean, it sounds like, you know, we've got the problem solved if we're listening to what I've just heard, but it doesn't seem to be playing out, at least statewide. It doesn't even seem to be playing out here in the local area. So I'm curious as to what makes anybody think that this is going to work, and how is putting 110 people in a permanent or temporary or emergency bed situation with all sorts of bells and whistles attached to it going to address the fact that there's still, at least according to the latest PIT, 561 remaining homeless in the county, and probably that's not even an accurate figure of the number of actual homeless in the county. So I'm thinking that perhaps this may appear to be some sort of a solution for the county. It may not be. Thank you.
Thank you. Please.
Yeah, that's just, my name is Ben Zumana, and just to counter that point, it seems like that's to say that what interventions have been done have not solved the homeless problem is disregarding the nature of the world that we're living in, and the fact that, like, we have huge numbers of people displaced by fires and economic turmoil, people from outside the state. The weather here is better than a lot of other places to be homeless, so it's always going to be an attractant for that. So it seems illogical, irresponsible, unethical to turn down this, what seems like a very well-reasoned proposal that will actually, if you think about the money coming into the county, both the money that goes to the employees as well as to those served, like a lot of that money will be spent in the county, then further benefiting private businesses who will, you know, provide goods and services for those people. So it just seems like I, for one, as a resident, don't expect any individual single solution. Even with $11 million, it sounds like a lot of money, but it's really not in the grand scheme of things to completely solve this. But it seems I strongly endorse this proposal and very much hope that you carry it through. So,
Thank you.
Is it still morning or afternoon? I don't know.
Afternoon.
But good morning. Okay. So I just want to share really briefly, because our presentation was so amazing that I feel like I really have nothing to add except for this. I'm Lisa McCowan, and I live in the county, and I'm president of Mission Possible. And I'm proud to say that. What I've seen in 4 full years, we're going into our 5th right now, is progress. Not perfection, but I've seen progress. What I've learned, unlike the private sector, this takes time. I'm used to getting things done, I'm used to making things happen, and talk about arduous, this has taken time. Though getting things done does not go hand in hand with working with local government and or a nonprofit. And Charlene is constantly teaching me that lesson. However, all I want to say is this. We have an amazing executive team. You saw that right now. We have an amazing board. And in closing, I'm just going to say this. Now we need you. Let's get something done. The time is now. The infrastructure is here. The money is here. Let's get together and make it happen. And that's all I have.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I think what Joey said is exactly right. This presentation would have been helpful at your last meeting. That's what I was thinking at the time, too. There was a lot of misunderstandings. But this is a little bit different, and I know you recognize that, but I want to speak to the change that they're proposing, which is the idea of putting it all in one place, you know, putting the emergency shelter in the same location. And I just would encourage you to support that and take whatever steps you need to take as quickly as possible, because you can hear the clock ticking and when they're doing their presentation. The grant is good for another couple of years, and man, you could have this all set up and really, really take a big dent out of this. And these people are sharp. I mean, you are too, but you know, you have good partners to work with, and so jump on this and do whatever you have to do to get that property available for them. That's what I would encourage you to do.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ellie Kimbauer, and I am a board member of Mission Possible. Was part of the founding board for Daphne to launch this kind of vision. And I want to just say, I didn't come prepared to speak, but I want to say how much I so appreciate the growth of understanding, of vision, of how we can integrate, you know, so many of our communities' concerns. And I just want to thank you so much for your roles in this. Excuse me, for going to, you know, Road Retreat, for really understanding, for being part of the subcommittee or the ad hoc committee. True North, it has been over the years as I've seen things evolve. The other thing is I'm a retired clinical psychologist here in the community. Pardon me. And having, you know, had working with the A Street Clinic at the time, it's a behavioral health program, and then now, you know, having had almost 20 years of having my own practice here, what I came to realize is exactly what Daphne is teaching us and demonstrating to us, and that is things are all about relationship and mental health, you know, interpersonal health. It takes communication, it takes presence, it takes a certain amount of, you know, ability to problem solve. So mental health is not just, of course, about medications, though that's a huge component, but there are so many relationship-based interventions that we can do that empower people to be, you know, the kinds of people that they've wanted to be or that they've looked up at. So mental health, when I think about what I'm doing now, no, it is not a private practice, helping individuals, families, you know, and employees and so forth. It is community mental health. We all need to be able to have a community that, you know, puts people and relationships first, and that looks beyond titles or looks beyond status, and then can say, hey, I hear you, and I may not be able to relate to what you're living with, but I can see this is an avenue to your life connecting with these lives. And this sense of partnership, relationship, I mean, that is the difference, y'all. When we're seeing and hearing all of these wonderful things that are on paper, the difference is, can you be a person who can connect with other people? Not just your phone, not just online, you know. So anyway, community mental health, Mission Possible, thank you so much. Thank you for helping us get to this point. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Thank you, Chairman. Good afternoon, Board. That was a really good presentation, and it's good to see that passion. You know, people making a difference. You know, I think it's ingenuous to not be talking about the real estate market and jobs, you know, when we talk about homeless. And we need to have a conclusive discussion, right? Like, how many homeless are there really? 500, give or take? And this proposal is for pallet homes, so it'll maybe house 100 or so. So we're taking care of 20% of the problem with 10 million. Wondering about the Legacy Hotel, if that'll go back to a regular hotel once we have this, or if the Legacy will stay the same. You know, pallet homes, you know, just doesn't seem to be a viable solution when you consider scales of economy, right? We need more like a hotel there, right, to house a few hundred, the way the problem is growing. So I'm wondering if we just really have that strategic plan right now. What are we going to do with the people that we aren't able to get into housing, right? And so it's a good discussion. You know, we have, seems like there's a lot of potential locations, a lot of commercial real estate empty. You know, the fire department in Smith River, Barrow Ranch, you guys own that already. It's got beds in it. Juvenile Hall has beds. You know, the state facility has a few hundred. So be good to talk about the problem as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you. You can pull the mic down.
Hi, I'm Talia Tuttle. I'm actually going to be one of the peer support people with this program, and I just wanted to kind of give a little bit of my background, not a whole lot of it, but just that I've been through what the process for this and come out a much better person and productive member of society. Something that I've had a hard time being since adulthood. And it's really shown me, taught me skills, like life skills, how to live, how to be a productive member of society, how to give back to my community what is so freely given. And I just maybe wanted to introduce myself as somebody who's going to be helping these people learn, as somebody who's just recently been through it myself. And I couldn't have done it without this program. And I only see it getting bigger and more beautiful. And I think this is just the start of something so great. So anyways, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name's Chris. It seemed like when it came down to like contracts and whether or not the individuals could have people come visit them, and also why they're paying possible participation fees, that would seem to maybe fall into the realm of like renters agreement type thing, to where, you know, like, how can you not let somebody have their family come visit them? How can you not have some friends, like close friends, relatives? That seems like maybe a legal issue that should be looked into slightly. And also the size of the buildings. It doesn't actually seem that it might be able to support 60 buildings in that location. You know, they have to be at least 220 square feet. So those are my comments. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Seeing none, bring it back to the board.
So I think what we are hoping to do today, if I'm reading the board report right, is to give direction for use of the Williams Drive as a potential emergency shelter and pallet homes location as requested by DHHS. If that's the case, I'd like to make a motion that we give that direction today.
So before, maybe I just want to comment off of some of the comments I heard. Is
Sure.
that okay? So I guess I've obviously been the biggest opponent of all of this for everyone. No secret there. And so to address Sam's comments, is this going to clear out the swamps? Is this going to take, you know, the drug addicts off the street? Absolutely not. I mean, everybody knows that. I don't think that's what this is for. But after taking the tour and after seeing the presentation and after talking to, I do believe that this will provide a clear pathway, steps for the people who actually want the help and can progress like Ms. Tuttle did there. I mean, this will implement and help some of those people and provide the clear pathway. And so that, as far as that angle of it, I agree with everything that's been presented. And is it going to clear the swamps? No, it's not. But I don't believe that's what it's intended for. Is that a fair summary? Okay.
Yeah, I'm just kind of dovetailing off of those comments out there. Daphne mentioned the ladies' home that we've had 48 women in. That doesn't mean that there's room for 48 women there, 6 at a time over the past few years, and we've had that kind of success. So, yeah, just kind of wanted to throw that out there as well. And I wanted also to second the motion.
And as we go forward, it's unfortunate that we had so much trouble seating this originally. I know you've looked for a long time. However, you know, it may have been a blessing in disguise that we're actually going to be centralizing all these services in one location, as opposed to having it campused out. Because with that centralization, it's going to limit the need for additional facilities, shower, laundry, cooking, etc. You don't have to have 3 kitchens now. We can focus in on one. And it's not the ideal, but it is where we have right now the room and the facilities that we are going to put in place. It'll save us dollars so that hopefully we can use those dollars for other issue or for other parts of this component program that we're putting together. And with that, I'll ask for poll the vote, please.
Supervisor Borges?
Yes.
Supervisor Short?
Yes.
Supervisor Starkey?
Yes.
Chair Wilson?
Yes. Now, the other part, while everyone's fidgeting in a seat, we'll take a 5-minute break, please.